Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. You never know what tomorrow may bring. That's why it's important to get the right insurance coverage today. At Kentucky Farm Bureau, we deliver the protection and peace of mind your family deserves. In fact, we've been providing folks in the bluegrass with dependable service since 1943. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. Happy New Year almost.
Yeah, we're like New Year's Eve.
Eve of the night. Yeah. So, yeah, big, 2026, just days away. I'm trying to be better in 2026. We're always trying to be better this time of year.
I got questions.
Okay.
As a guy that goes to a gym regularly.
Ish.
How much do you hate New Year's resolutions? Does your gym fill up? I've always wondered this.
There's more. Yes.
Is it annoying?
It's not that bad. So I don't know if you know this, but I do CrossFit. So
I've heard.
I haven't got to talk about it today. That's a different animal. It's a little different. It's a
bit of a heavier commitment to decide you're going to CrossFit.
It's a little nuts. So I don't think that affects that as much.
Okay.
People usually take that leap have already been. I need to do something like another step. Because I'm elite like that. That
right.
Just sounds like a humble.
You're the top tier of workouts.
Kind of going into like a humble bragger. But nah, so yeah, a little bit more. There's some more folks, and that's good. And I think one thing I do like about that community is the support for other people getting healthy. So there's not a lot of eye rolling that you have to, you're bumping into people and there's too many people, like probably at a regular Globo gym kind of big place,
Right.
So yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I always try to think of a resolution for the year, and then I fail pretty quickly into it. A couple goals. I joke around with my two guys, the video guys, that every year I'm trying to be less of a horrible person this year. That's my resolution.
I would love to get them on the podcast and see how you're doing with that.
I'm pretty sure they would say, when are we going to fulfill that resolution?
Oh, that again.
Yeah,
good luck.
Good luck with that. Continue to not do that. No. But yeah, so are you a resolution person?
I'm not. Here's my thing about a resolution is I should just try to be better anytime.
Right.
Like January to December should not be my marker.
Yeah.
Now this calendar year I'm going to do things. Also, I think winter's a hard time to start a lot of things that are the problem. Like, if I want to go start working out, I'm now in my dark basement.
Or
do you know what I mean? Or
cold gyms and just going out and you have to drive in the bad weather.
It's just a hard time to do much of that stuff. Yeah. I am a firm believer in a December reset, though. The meetings get a little bit less, and after the first of the year, as you'll hear in the podcast, a lot of us crank up pretty hard. And most jobs are like that. You have year-end things that happen, you crank it up for the first year. I'm a big reset in December. I should actually file the pile of papers that's in the corner of my office. I should buy the new planner, color code my things, clean my house. I'm a big reset December kind of gal, not I am going to begin working out for 45 minutes every day at 5 a.m. starting January 1st. I just think that's silly. Also, I think it's silly because a lot of the people that are firm believers in this are also I am actually going to stay up and have a really good time New Year's Eve. And I'm like, so your first day, you already failed.
There's no way you're going to go to the gym.
You're not well. You're not well. You're either extremely tired, you're not well sickness-wise. Something has happened. So I'm like, you know what? Just do a December reset and just be better.
Yeah, I think that the freshness, makes you think, okay, well, I'll do that better. I'm for it. If it makes people better, it's a good thing. But yeah, I don't really have resolutions. I'm more of I'm pretty good at finding reasons to not do a thing for a few more weeks. So saying, okay, I'll start on January 1. That's just another one of those for me. So I'm big all right, I want to do that. And I was like, when can I do that tomorrow?
I will
can
also
I start
say,
this tomorrow?
I'm sounding very judgmental. Let me back this up. If you are a New Year's resolution person and it is good for you,
it's making you an amazing person.
I love that for you. Do you know what I don't need to do? I don't need to know about it. That's and you'll find that in most areas of my life.
Let's do it.
You have a need to tell me incessantly something new you're doing in your life, I don't actually.
Renee, you know I do CrossFit.
I do. And do you know how much I care? Like, you just do you.
Do it. Just do
So,
it. Yeah.
like, I get annoyed on Good Morning America and all the news shows that I'm like, when you're with family, all those things are on, and they're like, what are the top ones for the... Just leave it alone. Let people do their thing.
Yep.
You want to read your Bible? Read your Bible more. You want to go to the gym? Go to the gym. I don't need to see the verse on your Snapchat every day.
Yeah, I don't need that.
I'm good.
I don't need that. But yeah, that's good. It's anytime,
I think I said I was going to sound less judgmental.
Yeah.
I sounded more judgmental. I think I just completely oxymoron.
Well, speaking to the new year, there's always a fresh start for the Farm Bureau calendar as well. We are out of annual meeting, the Kentucky Farm Bureau annual meeting, and some ideas came from that meeting like they always do. And we have a great guest today for a fresh start with a bunch of new resolutions for the 2026 year from Farm Bureau. So yeah, Kyle stopped by today and had a little chat.
We like to catch Kyle before session starts. You'll hear the calendar when he gets going, but
you don't see Kyle.
We don't see Kyle, and we go to AFBF, which is in California this year. And believe me, I'm not complaining. Trips are fun, but that's a big old time change. So he's gone for a week. We're all gone for a week. So we snagged him real quick before we all disappear, and he talks about a lot of the things. Annual meeting, we had 1,800 people at annual meeting.
Yep.
And so you talk about a lot of things were talked about, and somehow our board of directors narrowed that down, and he's going to talk through what we're going to go into session really talking about on behalf of our members, which I think will be neat.
Yeah. So if you're looking, what's going to happen in session? What are we talking about this year? What came from the annual meeting? This is a good podcast. Gives a quick overlook of that. And what's cool about Kyle and his team is like they're give them a call. If you got anything you want to ask. That there's ways of learning what Farm Bureau's up to. There's legislative reports. There's all kinds of information that you can get your hands on. But yeah, great. He's always fun to talk to. We're all buddies here, so this is a fun chat with Kyle, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
All right, without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
Let's get rural. Commodity world, like the new year happens and all we have thought about is the 400 trade shows we're going to have to go to and how many times we're going to meet at random points in the state and trade off our stuff. Like we have 2 sets of trade booth stuff and it's like still not enough. And so like I'll meet Donovan somewhere, a friend somewhere, and we're like, okay, fruit and veg is in Bowling Green, but then commodity conference is also there, but Cattlemen's is before that. No one's probably like, we just run the roads. And I think we're really busy. And then I realize I might be running the roads, but Kyle is sitting in Frankfort the entire time and probably working longer hours, but has never gotten to leave where he's at. So talk to us January, and maybe the beginning's not the hardest part. For those that don't know, like, what does that entail? Like the new year happens, you hit the ground running. What does January look like for you?
So January is always an exciting month because we go in session the first Tuesday after the first Monday. So that's when all the legislators come back and they're in Frankfort from, it kind of depends on the day, but usually they'll start around 8 o'clock and early on in session, they might conclude 4 p.m. It just kind of depends. But as you get through session, January into more kind of end of March, April, they're there till midnight. And back in the good old days, as some of the older legislators would say, they used to, pause the clock and they might go into the next hours of the morning. But that doesn't happen anymore. It is all televised, and once it hits 11:59, they have to gavel out for the day and start a new legislative day the next day. So the late hours really come around middle of March into April, but the January is busy because there's several dozen committees, or around a dozen committees in each chamber, the House and the Senate, and tracking all the bills. There'll be well over 1,000 filed in a long session, which we're going to get into in 2026. It's a budget session. So there's a lot of pieces of legislation that might not get passed but get heard, and you have to track all those to make sure that what's in those bills are either good for your organization, or if they're bad, then you'd be opposed to them. But yeah, it's when you cram everything into 3.5 months, 60 days, 60 total days, a lot happens, and it all happens very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people think 60 days sounds like a long time until you realize the 1,000 bills that got filed. Like, I think there's just that understanding in the process it takes. Like, it's filed, it gets sent to a committee to put it in a committee, then it goes to that committee. I mean, there's a lot of steps in there that I don't think just from the outside you watch the news and you're like, how can it take so long? I don't understand how they can't get more done. 60 days and 1,000 bills. I mean, it's crazy to think how much they do get done in that time frame.
Right. And most pieces of legislation has someone supporting it and somebody against it. So every bill that comes before a committee, well, I won't say every bill, but just about every bill that comes before a committee will have somebody go to the table to testify in support of it, and then usually somebody else right behind them in opposition to it. Mm-hmm. So you have to take the time to listen to both sides once the bill is actually up for discussion in the committee, but leading up to it actually being in the committee, there are countless hours of advocacy that goes on behind the scenes where lobbyists and just constituents in general are going and meeting with their legislator to lobby them on the issue.
Wow. So this is like your Super Bowl. Is this Kyle Kelly's Super Bowl this time of year?
Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. It's just not one day. It's many days.
Yeah, I mean, so when you look at, like, we just came out of annual meeting a month ago. We are, about a month ago. We're working towards AFBF. What were some of the main priority issues is the term we use for the things that come out of annual meeting. What are some of those main issues that really came out of our annual meeting that kind of your marching orders now to go try to get done?
Yeah, we'll start with AFBF since you mentioned that. That is coming up just in a week or so. We'll all be traveling to Anaheim this year, so that'll be a fun, a warm location. I'll say that,
which is exciting.
Yeah. So that's exciting. But from a national level, there's really nothing new. I mean, our priorities around getting a farm bill done, we still don't have a new farm bill. We did receive several wins through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act back in July that updated some farm bill programs, but ultimately it did not address all titles of the farm bill. Mm-hmm. So we really need to do what we're calling a Farm Bill 2.0. We need to update the entirety of the Farm Bill. We need to put it all back together where it's more a unified piece of legislation. That's what we've done for many years. Going back to the 30s, we've had a 5-year Farm Bill that's encompassed a lot of these ag priorities, and we've started to split them up. And it was a win for agriculture to get what we got in the One Big Beautiful Bill, but that'll be a priority going into 2026. We will still be pushing to get what we call a multi-year, all-together farm bill. It'll be tough, but that'll be something we're working on. H2A reform, and we all call it H2A reform, but just for any listeners that don't exactly know the acronym H2A, if that is considered an acronym, but it's not an acronym actually. It is subsection H, part 2, subpart A in a piece of federal legislation.
I've never thought through if that is an acronym or not until this exact moment.
So it's not an acronym. Yeah, me neither really, but it's actually the place in a piece of legislation that deals with foreign guest workers specific to agriculture. So that program, a lot of regulatory hurdles for farmers. So that continues to be a priority. It's been a priority for 20 years. So we'll keep working on that at the national level. At the state level, we have quite a few things that we've had since 1979, some before that. But when we think about House Bill 44 around property taxes that caps the revenue that special taxing districts and taxing districts can bring in at 4% plus new growth, that's been in effect since 1979. It's actually lowered the state property tax rate from 31.5 cents to about 10.6 cents per hundred. So you've seen the property tax rate decrease because of that legislation. That's been a priority for Farm Bureau since 1979. Agricultural inputs being sales tax exempt, been a priority for forever since we've had sales tax. So that's something that remains. When we talk about something new, and I'll just talk about one, and I know that we'll probably talk about others throughout the discussion, that's related to the Kentucky Farmland Transition Initiative. We've talked a lot about this, Renee, and everyone has, because it is so important to this organization. Last year, we got a pretty big win, updating the selling farmer tax credit. That's all been focused on the seller, and our membership has continued to talk about the need to incentivize the purchasing, the buyer side. So we're going to go into this budget session and work hard on developing a low-interest loan program for farmers to purchase farmland. We do have a low-interest loan program through the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy for young and beginning farmers. We don't want to do anything to affect that in a negative manner. We're asking for, in addition to that program works phenomenally. It has for 25 years. Can we get another program in place, general fund dollars, help build a program for all active farmers, specifically for the purchasing of farmland, with a caveat that they sign some type of deed restriction or covenant that land will stay in production agriculture for a minimum of 10 years.
Yeah.
I think that one's really important in the sense that for those, and Brandon Reed's been on the podcast to explain the Ag Finance Corporation as well, but an important piece I always like to remind people, not that the federal programs and loan programs aren't incredibly important, but it makes you continue that relationship with your local lender. And I think that's very important. Instead of dropping, general fund dollars in and send it straight to your producers and they're kind of dodging that piece, we're actually getting more community work in that. So they're working with their lender. It's a blended rate. You could do an FSA guarantee on top of that to help you really be qualified for more dollars and be able to qualify for more land. And so from an active farmer's perspective, I would be very curious on how they would be able to even more tweak that program, because you would think more of your kind of sustainable active farmers probably have a little bit more financial know-how and are able to maybe encompass even more dollars and cents. So it'll be interesting. I like the way we've talked about it in the sense of let's not break what we already have, but let's also not ignore the fact that something works. And let's get that group to help us form what those guidelines could look like. So I really appreciate the collaborative effort over there. And it's very telling in the sense for me that works with our partner organizations in the network that they quickly said, this has been phenomenal, but what about this? And they felt heard and were able to kind of take that and go with it. It's helpful for me. I think it's been helpful for you as well.
It's been very helpful, and this will be another big lift.
For sure.
So, I would just encourage our membership to know a lot of great things don't happen in the first year. We've been pretty fortunate to receive some pretty big victories in the first year of advocating for those, but a lot of issues like this might be a multi-year. I'm hoping we get it done, Matt, this, right away, let's go do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to try. But I do just encourage our membership to know that this is a pretty big shift in policy, really, and not a big shift in policy as much as just a big program shift. And, I mean, it could be millions and millions of dollars. There's a lot of rules that have to be written. So it might take a year or two just to get the regulatory rules in place. So it might be something where you can get a little victory now and might go into effect in 2028, but we're going to work on it, and ultimately our grassroots membership will be the strength. They are the strength. So I think we'll hopefully get a bill out there and can work it, and our membership will go to work, and we'll hopefully get something done this session. But we definitely, as we start talking about it and educating members of the General Assembly as we get into the session.
Just speaking to that, I mean, you're there, you're in Frankfort, you're doing this during these sessions, you're working, you're advocating for Farm Bureau. Do you see moments where clearly the membership has done that part of the job, where all of a sudden something starts kind of happening and you're like, okay, where did that come from? But do you see that on a day-to-day?
Absolutely. Like that is the strength of Kentucky Farm Bureau. Our members are out there. What I go to Frankfort and talk about, it's their idea. It's the folks that listen to this call. It's your all's idea.
Yeah.
So they're actively talking to their legislators too. So it's something unique to Farm Bureau, really, where I'm getting calls from legislators saying, hey, this bill hadn't even been filed yet, but I want to help you on this issue. Like, I want to file that bill. Can you get me some language, or can you help me work with some language with some bill drafters? Normally, from an advocacy standpoint, the group has to bring the idea to the legislator and then sell the legislator and then sell their colleagues on it.
Right.
And with Kentucky Farm Bureau, because of our grassroots membership and their active engagement in the process, legislators come to us asking us, how can I help you all with this?
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal to work in that environment. I know how lucky I am to have that. And I've always said, and you've heard a lot of leaders from ag commissioners to Warren Beeler, the current deputy, he's always said, in agriculture, our strength is our people. It's not necessarily the direct project. It is the people behind the project. In this case, it's the people behind the policy, and that is where we get our strength.
Yeah.
So talking about the people, we laugh. I'm not a lobbyist, and I always make sure and tell people that immediately. I like to help bridge. So if Kyle and Erica have an issue, I love working with our field staff to be like, all right, who's the right producer to pull in to help talk that? And one of our priority issues, I was very blessed to get to pull one in from West Kentucky, from an area where I grew up, and help her get a chance to kind of testify and tell her story of some of the needs that they had as an agribusiness. But we've heard this talk, whether it's agribusinesses, whether it's farmers themselves on their ground, a lot of different pieces. So talk through for me some of the conversations that have gone on maybe in the interim when it comes to eminent domain.
Yeah, and Renee, you do a great job. Your team does a great job. As you mentioned at the start, your boots on the ground, you're out there when Erica's in D.C. or I'm in Frankfort and we're kind of in that arena, you're out there engaging with our membership. So thank you and your team for what you do. And yeah, eminent domain's been an issue for Kentucky Farm Bureau. It's probably why we were founded 106
Honestly,
years ago.
yes.
We're around private property rights and eminent domain, and it's never going to go away. It is necessary in certain cases. We all need roads. We agree with that. We all need and want water and electricity. We agree with that. But in the case you're mentioning, we were able to testify during the interim joint agriculture committee from an agribusiness owner in West Kentucky where there was just a complete lack of transparency. You had a landowner that was willing to negotiate with the condemning entity. They were acting in good faith, and time again, the condemning entity, the facts just changed. Mm-hmm. And if you're the landowner, you're going through one of the worst times in your career where you're losing your most valuable asset, which is a piece of your land, your property. They've made investments on that property. They had dug wells, they had run water lines, they had put up signage, run electricity, things of that sort where they had invested a lot of money. The project ultimately completely changed. They didn't want to get any compensation for what we call agricultural infrastructure improvements. So we're very thankful to Chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, Myron Dossett. We're working with him on legislation next year. It is a priority. It already was a priority, but we kind of doubled down on it being a priority going into 2026, but not to completely ban eminent domain. Anybody listening that works for an entity that might have condemning authority, the goal is not to make the projects cost more or delay. It's to bring more transparency to the process and to put in state statute what most landowners already get, but they might have to go to court, pay attorney's fees, be out a lot of time and money. But a lot of times they are awarded agricultural infrastructure improvements, but they have to get an attorney, go to court, miss work. We want to make that clear in the statute that that's part of the compensation package during an eminent domain proceeding to hopefully keep both sides out of court, which should save money for both entities. So we were fortunate to be able to testify during the interim on that issue and received a lot of positive support. So hopefully that's something that we can see progress throughout session as well.
Yeah, and there's just some very basic things we can do. I think that's been the exciting part for me on this because you say the word eminent domain and it feels daunting and you feel opposition just at your doorstep immediately. But there are very, very silly stories of quick fixes. Certified mail, sending that to the address that's on your tax filing. We've had a couple instances where it's gone to a P.O. box that they haven't used in years. So they literally never got the notice and people show up ready to start putting flags out and marking. And they're like, what are you doing here? If we could do certified mail, I don't think that's putting anyone out any incredible amount of money. But now we've fixed a problem that maybe if that would have kept happening for years and years from now, we do have a really tough conversation on eminent domain. So I really like the collaborative effort of where are the small fixes? Yeah. We all understand this is a necessity. Everyone complains about the construction in Springfield till we get our extra lane. And then we're like, man, is this nice to get to pass the McCain Brothers grain truck safely instead of somebody running the back of. I mean, we all like the expansion when it's done. But in the meantime, let's make sure we can fix the tiny tweaks to make this just an easier situation all around.
Yeah.
And that's the goal of our legislation. And I think that's always been the strength in Kentucky Farm Bureau is we are a collaborative group. We obviously are strong advocates for things that we're passionate about, but we never just see one side of it and go in there and try to bulldog through something that only is good for this person in particular. As we look at the greater good of things, we realize all of our members want and need cheaper electricity and things of that nature. Right. Well, if you make eminent domain too difficult or give them 500% of the fair market value, something like that, well, then you might impact the utility rates or the rate to build the road, And there's I think close to 40 different condemning entities. Not all of them are probably necessities, but the ones we're talking about are, and we understand that. So we're not trying to make a process that is going to drive cost up. We're trying to make a process to keep people out of the courts, for one, and to just bring more transparency, better defined public meeting. Mm-hmm. And that's one big part. I mean, a lot of entities might go through some type of process, or it's in some paper somewhere. Let's just give that landowner that's going to be impacted, if they suggest a local public meeting. We have fiscal court meetings, we have city council meetings, we have school board meetings, we have a whole host of local meetings that already take place. Let's, if there's going to be a project that's using condemnation, let's allow the landowner to request a local public meeting.
And you speak to the idea that often a lot of these things you work on do affect other people. And you guys think about it, how it affects negatively. But sometimes it's like there's a residual positive effect to just a regular urban person in a county. And I mean, this is one of those things that like could affect people positively if they just knew what Farm Bureau was actually working for. Because, you know, I think they're so often these are businesses, these are this and that and the other, these farms, but these are families, these are people. They're just running a business like a guy running a business in an urban area. There's a lot of things that are very similar that I think this legislation really helps.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, these are people's neighbors. These are people that are growing food that they're selling at farmers markets, and if they lose a portion of their land, whether it's their crop ground or whether it's drainage tiles, a big one. If they lost a piece of their land to condemnation and it impacted their ability to grow the crops that they're selling at the farmers market and et cetera. Yeah, you're absolutely right that it impacts more than just the condemned person.
Right.
So one last question on eminent domain, because I think this is helpful. And as a reminder, Kyle said it once and I'll say it again. This is what is going to be proposed legislation. None of this is law. If only, if we were that good in the interim, Kyle, you would be making some bigger bucks. But talk to me when we talk about what do you mean by ag structures, ag facilities? What kinds of things are on the table that people are toying around with of things that would qualify? Because I'm sure somebody in Central Kentucky versus somebody in West Kentucky, those mean very different things given their farming operations.
Yeah, and a lot of things will change throughout the session, but I think when we do see a bill that's filed, kind of what we have discussed is including but not limited to agricultural infrastructure improvements, including but not limited to drainage tile. That's a big one out west. Actually, it's a big one. I'm kind of in northern Kentucky area, and Ohio River runs through, and Kentucky River comes up. So we actually have more than I realized just getting out to talk to people. But drainage tile is a big one. Water lines that you run, those are two underground ones, but driveways. A lot of people are investing in roads on their properties. Those things, fences, livestock fencing, but then obviously your traditional buildings, which have always been considered if they go through a tobacco barn or a farm shop. You try to avoid the big standalone expensive buildings, and oftentimes you overlook what it would cost to run water lines, build a new fence, whether it's woven wire or board fence. That's at a high cost to the farmer. So those are the including but not limited to, because we don't want to just pigeonhole ourselves in. We do understand there's a lot of people investing in a lot of things on their operations, but we do want to just put a few examples that we hear about the most.
I just think it gives people a good idea of maybe the scope of which we're talking about this in the areas we're talking about. You said it earlier, and I'll say it again. We do look on both sides of these issues to figure out what we want to do. And I think the reason our members have that perspective is because they are involved integrally in their local communities, whether they're on planning and zoning, whether they're on the electric co-op board, I think we always think our guys are on the soybean board or the cattlemen's, like we're thinking commodity and ag groups. These guys are magistrates. These guys are judge executives. I think having members in those situations that hear from these organizations that have that condemning power is huge, because they know that perspective. And instead of us having to seek them out first, sometimes our membership's the one that's like, whoa, Kyle, you got to remember, as a judge in X, Y, or Z county, this is what I've run into before, and we need the road expansion, or we need this power line to go through. I think it's helpful because our members are involved on local communities.
Yeah, our members, and here another great example, they're contractors potentially for, like, one person reached out to me. They were a contractor for a water utility. And they're like, hey, I do a lot of this work. Like, I do see where we could be better.
Yeah.
But they also say, like, look, if you do this, this is going to be what happens. So our membership that they serve on the rural electric cooperative boards, they're involved. That's why I mentioned, like, if you work for or with or serve on a board of a condemning entity, like, no, we're not trying to say it can never happen, because those people do call us also. Renee, you're absolutely right. They take part in our policy process. And I think that's why we do usually come to a pretty good consensus before we ever even have legislation filed.
Yeah, our members are so involved, and they're different, but they are pieces of community. That's kind of what I was getting at before. They think about how this is going to affect, rural communities is a big part of what we do. So, yeah.
All right, so Kyle, I'm a member in the county, and I have been working with my legislator in this interim, and things are happening in Frankfort, and I feel very far away, and I want to be able to help or talk or do things. What's your suggestion for Joe Schmo in a county that wants to make sure their opinion or their thought process is heard during the actual session time? It kind of feels daunting when you're sitting at home and you see the TV and you're like, man, those guys been there since midnight. How would you suggest people stay involved during the session, and what's some kind of pointers for them?
Definitely sign up for our weekly legislative update. So during when we're outside of session, we send legislative updates on an as-needed basis for state and national. But during session, we send one every single Friday that's updating on, not a ton of bills. We usually focus kind of on our priority pieces of legislation and things that impact our organization. But we do a weekly email, and then we do link to where they could see more bills that are filed and reaching out directly to us. I would also say that these legislators tell me all the time that they want to hear from their constituents. I know we already have monthly board meetings, and it's a lot, but what if you did get the board together for Saturday coffee at your local restaurant? That's being part of a process kind of independently of coming through our state office. But legislators, they are tired. They are worn out. They have had a busy week. Many of them get apartments and hotels in Frankfort. But a lot of them would be willing at least once a month, or maybe once in January, once in March, to go get coffee at a local bakery in your hometown to just discuss what's going on. They want to hear. And then obviously our state office is a resource. Our contact's always out there. Reach out to any of us three, and we all communicate regularly. And we're happy to answer any questions and pass along the message. But I definitely encourage, again, as it was mentioned multiple times, the strength is at the grassroots level. And if you want talking points before inviting them to a Saturday for breakfast, I'm happy to do that, because we already have them. I write up the talking points every Friday morning. So they're there.
I think that I always try to think of, put my feet in the shoes of a legislator. You have to be such a know-it-all of everything, right? And I think people kind of forget that sometimes when they see national media, not national media, but national legislators. They seem to have an opinion about everything. Those opinions are formulated in some way, right? And we can be a part of formulating the right one by having those kinds of sessions, right? I mean, I would welcome it. I know that going into something, ag-related or just an industry I'm not familiar with, having that industry, those folks kind of talk through whatever this bill is. So I think that's one thing that we could, we have taken advantage of for years, because people don't know agriculture as much as we'd hope. So, yeah, I mean, I think those meetings, those coffees, those just phone calls, those kind of things really help. Yeah, I would want that. I know that. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that I'm the expert of every bill that comes my way as a legislator. So I think those sessions really help a lot. Yeah,
and we're the lucky organization to have that when they come and say, I want to hear where are my constituents at on it?
Right.
I'm like, well, matter of fact, they're having coffee at 8 a.m. this Saturday morning. Like, you can go meet with them right there.
Yeah.
They want to know, and we're one of the few organizations that can provide that to all 138 members in all 120 counties.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, this has been phenomenal, Kyle. I feel like we dove in quick, but you're becoming a regular here, so our listeners are getting used to it. If you need any of us throughout this new year, I made jokes about us running the roads and Kyle being stuck in lots of committee meetings, but you would be shocked how much you can text through a truck, or you can text while you're sitting in the back of a room. So if you need something, we're always very, very available. But and push on your legislators as well for that same kind of openness and build those relationships. But we can't thank you enough for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Love being on. Appreciate what you all do, sharing the good word of Kentucky Farm Bureau. And through the podcast, you all do an excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and listen to some of our previous episodes. We'll see you next time on Let's Get Rural.